This is Max. He has to use a bandage to cover his face because it would cause others to die upon looking at him. It seemed like Max's life would be lonely until he met a girl that changed his life. When Max was just born, the doctor and 2 nurses saw his face, beautiful like an angel, and immediately were killed by that face. Max's beauty was extremely peculiar. Anyone who saw his face would first smile happily and then immediately die. The news of Max's face being able to kill people spread throughout the town, and no one dared to look into his eyes. To live a peaceful life, Max's family packed up their belongings and left their home, moving to another town. Bandages, sunglasses, and a green hat became the boy's constant companions. In the blink of an eye, 16 years had passed, and Max had grown up. His parents were very sad because Max couldn't go to school or have romantic relationships. Knowing that there was a very skilled doctor who could cure any illness, they took Max to see him. Max told the doctor about what he had been through, and when the doctor heard Max say that his good looks could kill people, he found it hard to believe. So he asked Max to remove the bandages on his face for verification. Max obediently complied, and the result was that the doctor died right there on the spot, leaving them with nothing but disappointment. Max couldn't attend school like a normal child and had to study at home. He felt that life was quite dull, so he found a small hobby for himself, which was embroidery. Every time he finished a piece of work, Max would frame it and hang it on the wall in his room. Max's only friend was Dan, and they often hung out at home playing games. As Valentine's Day was approaching and Max was still single, he asked Dan to help him find a girl to date. Dan was quite skilled in the art of wooing, so Dan agreed. Valentine's Day arrived, and Dan had arranged to meet a girl he had met online at a restaurant. At the restaurant, he made an excuse to leave and handed the date over to Max. The girl was a bit shy. They started an awkward conversation at the restaurant. Max, lacking experience in dating, asked questions that didn't seem interesting to the girl, so Max decided to give her an embroidered handkerchief as a gift. However, this only made things worse because she thought Max was an eccentric man. At this point, a man arrived who turned out to be the girl's ex-boyfriend. He had no good intentions. Upon seeing Max, he recognized Max as the infamous guy with the looks could kill. Max didn't dare to reveal his true identity and endured harassment from that guy, who pushed Max's face onto the table. Luckily, the restaurant staff intervened, and the man left. Max felt embarrassed, and the girl wanted to leave as well. When Max asked if they could meet again, the girl simply said, "I'm sorry." After Max's first date was ruined, he believed that it was all because of his face. Feeling disheartened, Max spotted a brick lying on the ground and came up with an idea. When he returned home, he asked Dan to take the brick and hit him in the face to destroy his looks. Max thought that this might be the only way to ensure that people wouldn't die because of his looks. Dan reluctantly agreed and hit Max, breaking his nose. At the hospital, while waiting in the lobby, everyone stared at Max, considering him an oddity as he covered his face with a bandage. A girl sitting nearby handed him a magazine to cover his face further. Unsuccessful in his attempt to ruin his face, Max's mood worsened, and he decided to go to a bridge, contemplating suicide. However, a girl passing by, the same one he met at the hospital, stopped him. She advised him to find a higher bridge because jumping from there wouldn't be enough to kill him. They struck up a conversation, and her name was Alex. She took Max to a nursing home where she volunteered. It turned out that Alex regularly visited the nursing home to take care of elderly residents. Alex explained Max's story to the elderly residents, and they all encouraged him to value his life and stay strong, as that's how life gains meaning. Back at home, Max couldn't stop thinking about Alex as it seemed he had a crush on her. On the next day, Max gathered his courage and asked Alex out on a date, and she shyly agreed. On their first date, they went to a store and bought chocolate chips enough to fill full of a bathtub. They sat on opposite sides of the tub, creating a highly romantic scene. As they began to talk, they shared their secrets. After a while, Alex learned that the guy from the legends who could kill people with his looks was right in front of her. At the same time, Alex revealed her unique condition. She had a strange illness where she couldn't experience joy or sadness. If her mood changed, her heart would swell and could lead to death at any moment. Both of them had their unusual conditions, and as they got to know each other better and shared their experiences, they developed a deeper understanding and empathy for one another. Later on, Max and Alex went to the movies, enjoying each other's company immensely. They watched the movie while playfully competing to see who could drink faster, and both of them were very happy. After the movie, Max took Alex back home. Dan suddenly called, and when Alex greeted him, he was extremely surprised that Max had found a girlfriend and praised Max by saying, "You are my boy." Alex took off Max's sunglasses and was captivated by his amazing eyes. As they were about to become more intimate, Max's parents suddenly returned home. When Max's parents saw that Max had a girlfriend, his mother immediately hugged Alex tightly out of joy. Behind Max's parents, there was also a Korean exchange student they had brought home primarily to introduce her to Max and help him find a girlfriend. However, Max had already resolved his single status on his own, leaving the exchange student feeling unhappy, and she decided to leave. One day, Dan came to find Max and invited him for a double date. Max and Dan took their girlfriends to the countryside for a day of fun. Due to a minor accident, Alex injured her hand. Max carefully removed a piece of the bandage from his face and used it to bandage Alex's wound, showing great care and attention. This act made Alex feel somewhat emotional, causing her heart to beat faster. In the evening, as they lay beside each other, Alex wished she could see Max's face. Max then pulled her under the blanket and asked her to close her eyes. He told her that he would remove his bandage so she should not open her eyes, or else his looks would kill her. Max used the bandage to cover Alex's eyes. She began to use her hand to feel Max's face. It was indeed very handsome, but she didn't dare to open her eyes. In that romantic moment, they shared a kiss. Afterward, Max and Alex went to the nursing home. The elderly woman they had spoken to before was lying on her sickbed, suffering from excruciating pain due to her illness. Alex didn't want to witness this distressing scene and felt that the elderly woman deserved to leave this world in happiness. So, she asked Max for help, and he immediately agreed. Max asked the elderly woman if she was ready to pass away in happiness. She nodded in agreement, and Max slowly removed the fabric from his face. Upon seeing Max's face, the elderly woman instantly smiled with joy and then took her final breath in contentment. After that day, Alex suddenly disappeared, and Max couldn't reach her by phone. Max had no choice but to go to her house to find her. It turned out that Alex's condition had worsened because she had strong feelings for Max and constantly thought about him. But any emotional excitement caused her heart to swell, and she knew she didn't have much time left to live. So, the two of them decided to attend a masquerade party where they wouldn't need to cover Max's face. It was Max's first time attending such an event with his girlfriend, so he was very excited to go without his bandage. Fortunately, his parents and Alex closed their eyes in time. Otherwise, Max almost accidentally killed all of them. Alex dressed as a maid and gave Max a cool-looking dog-shaped mask. During the party, they danced joyfully, but after a while, Alex mentioned that she needed to use the restroom. In reality, it was due to her condition causing her nosebleeds. In a resting area, Max coincidentally encountered Dan and his new girlfriend. As they were talking, a thug approached them, who turned out to be the ex-boyfriend of Dan's girlfriend. He and 3 other thugs blocked their way, preparing for a fight. When Dan tried to confront them, he was stopped by the 3 thugs. While Max was caught by the other thug, he removed Max's mask. Unfortunately, the girl stood in front of Max and unintentionally saw his face and died in happiness. His looks had taken another life. Shortly after, the police arrived and took them away. At the police station, the officers were afraid of being killed by Max's looks, so they covered his head with a bag and took photos for evidence. However, due to the lack of evidence that Max had committed murder, the court declared him innocent and released him. The next day, the thug came to Max's house to apologize. Max opened the door but forgot to cover his face, causing the thug to die on the spot. Upon learning that Alex was in the hospital, Max rushed to visit her. By this time, she had been transferred to a special care room, unable to move. Max discovered that Alex's medication was not for a heart condition, but for her stomach, revealing that Alex had deceived him. She didn't have the peculiar heart condition that caused her heart to swell, but rather a congenital heart defect. When she was 4 years old, the doctors had told her she wouldn't live past the age of 16, yet she was now 17. Max didn't blame her and understood the difficult circumstances she faced. She asked Max to remove the bandage from his face so she could see the face of the person she loved and leave this world in happiness. Max was in deep pain, but couldn't agree because he wanted her to live. Max, tears streaming down his face, left, burdened by the belief that his very appearance was the root cause of all the tragedy that had unfolded. He grabbed a brick and repeatedly smashed it into his face in an attempt to destroy his looks, but his parents arrived in time to stop him. Max removed the bandage from his face. At that moment, a passing cat saw Max's face and immediately died, proving that even if Max destroyed his appearance, it was useless. After many days of thinking, Max decided to grant the final wish of Alex, so he visited her and covered the wall opposite her hospital bed with his embroidered artwork. He lay next to her, and they exchanged their final goodbyes. Max removed the bandage from his face, and Alex opened her eyes, finally seeing Max's face as he cried. It was thought that she would die in happiness like others, but she wasn't affected by his looks. They looked at each other and exchanged smiles, but at that moment, Alex had a heart attack and couldn't survive. Max helplessly watched the love of his life depart from this world. In the days and months that followed, Max didn't give up. His story was shared on the internet, and many people supported him. Max found a job helping terminally ill patients pass away happily by showing them his face. Perhaps this was the mission assigned to him by God. This is the end of the movie. If you enjoy it, please like and subscribe to support my channel. Thank you for watching.